Before we start this episode proper, Jason, Jeremy, and I wanted to take a moment to address an issue with this episode and the tragic event that happened last week in Parkland, Florida. We were aware the anime we watched the past 2 weeks, Inuyashiki, had mature themes, and some of these scenes, unfortunately, depict a young man shooting innocent people on the streets, in homes, and in a school. We here at Baka want to make it clear that we mean absolutely no disrespect towards the victims and their families. As fathers, as Americans, as humans, our hearts go out to all those affected by such an horrendous act of violence. We also want to make sure that our audience understands that as these moments do occur within the plot of this anime, they could be brought up in our conversation, and that while we will do our utmost to treat any discussion respectfully, we completely understand that the sensitive nature of this topic makes you want to skip out on this episode. Baka was created for superficial escapism. We're three buddies laughing and we're arguing over trivial things for your and our own enjoyment. We regret that the chosen anime and the heartbreaking current events have such direct parallels. Due to our schedules and our format of recording, we've chosen to continue on with the episode, but felt it was needed to properly alert our audience to the content ahead. Thank you for understanding. With that, I would like to open the show with a moment of silence for the victims of the Parkland, Florida shooting. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Baka. This is an anime podcast where every 2 weeks, me and my collective hive mind of nerds come together and we talk about an anime that we just watched. And then we turn the discussion over to you to do the same and carry it further. And if you want to see some good signs of that, check out our Madoka Magica and Madoka Magica Rebellion episodes in the YouTube comments. We are getting some great discussions, some great extra detail and points that we missed out on, that went way over our head, that prove that we are truly the Baka Bakas that we claim to be. I really want to give those commenters a shout out. They really went the extra mile, and that's exactly the kind of stuff we're looking for. So thank you. So if you have stuff to add to the discussion that we bring forth, feel free to bring it. We love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, actually, turned me around a little bit on Rebellion. One of our commenters, it was really well done. Gave me some deeper understanding of what was going on, and I think it helped me with the story overall.
Nice. We are talking about the anime Inuyashiki Last Hero. At least that's the title on Amazon. Every time I find it, I feel like it's got a different title. Some I've seen call it Cyborg Grandpa, but
that's my favorite.
We have a lot to discuss about it, but before we do, I would like to introduce that collective hive mind I mentioned, my co-host. First off, we have the R2-D2 to my Star Wars, Jeremy.
Yeah. So
I'm already offended.
I know. What are you going to be, BB-8? That wouldn't be too bad.
Well, no. See, since you're the Star Wars for him, and he's such a fanboy,
you're probably going to be like the Doctor Who robot.
No, I'll probably be the Larry the Cable Guy to the Cars. But go ahead.
Oh, jeez,
guys! I love when you try to analyze and get inside my head. Jeremy, what you been up to?
Subnautica. I have probably put over 60 hours into that game, and I beat it now.
You did?
But I want to play it again. It's so good.
To be honest, guys, I have missed Jeremy because I feel like he's gone on a real undersea voyage. And it's like, well, maybe he'll surface in a week and send a letter, and then we'll talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten to play HOTS or anything for this whole time, but it's so good. Just the way that they've done everything. Every podcast I listen to is talking about it, so I'm sure it's out there. I won't go into too much detail, but I will say there is a mod out there. I believe it's called Lillin's mod, and you can find it on not Mod Nexus, but on the Nexus or something like that. Just do a search for Subnautica mods if you want it. It's very easy to install. You just replace the C# assemblies file, and it really makes hardcore terrifying. You will die from the tiniest things, and I kept having to restart.
If it wasn't a crafting game, I would even like. I was like, I want to play this, and I saw the crafting. I'm like, I want to play it a little less, but it still looks so cool. Like it's the kind of thing I want to see other people play, and I don't have to deal with. I just want to see highlight reels because it does look really cool.
The crafting stuff is so, it feels a part of it so well. It's not like you're really going out of your way to. I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to.
The moment you said mod, Jeremy, I think Troy needs to go find his eyeballs because they work so hard.
Yeah, I'm just people tuning in for an anime podcast hearing about computer mods, and I have a hard time imagining they're the same audience. All right, let's introduce the other host. He is every robot to my movie Robots. Jason.
Actually, I loved that old movie Robots, the animated one with.
That's the one I'm talking about. You like that? That was garbage.
What? I love that movie.
Other than Ewan McGregor, the other Obi-Wan Kenobi being in it. I'm full. Okay.
I mean,
is that the one where they
Is
that the one where they flew around and they were friends with everybody and they had like child robots or something?
No, it's like a world. It's like basically Cars with robots. Like everyone's just a robot. When you had a baby, you built your baby.
Yeah, you literally. It shipped to you,
and the main character is an inventor, and it's really just a normal guy from country goes to city, takes down corporate empire story, but told with robots, so it's got robot puns, and it's not fun. It's Cars.
That was great.
Robots. Yeah, and you like Cars.
Hey, it had Robin Williams. I mean, how can it go wrong, right?
That is true. All right, you got me on
Bicentennial Man.
Jason, how are you?
Doing fairly well. Besides. Little under the weather past couple of days. Right. I have to say, I'm on my way to finishing Rusty Lake Paradise, and I do not want it to end. This point and click adventure has sucked me so far in. I am Five Nights at Freddy level, like right. Lore diving into this. I'm finding out the names of people that I didn't think I would ever care about. Like, yeah, it's like theory crafting with you on it has been great. And best price for most of the games is free. So
that's right.
You should look it up. The Cube Escape and Rusty Lake
games. You just go to their website and they'll tell you all the places they can get it. Like it's almost impossible not to have a way to play it for free. Most of them.
Try to do it in order though. If you're going to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Or you're going to be asking, why am I collecting dog poop? That's so important.
Way more important than I thought it would be.
I actually watched another anime, and it ended up being good that I did, but I watched the second season of Psycho-Pass, finally. I got that off my bucket list. Yeah, they even have a movie that's like the end of the story, like so there's first season, second season, and then movie ending.
Okay.
And I watched the second season, and I came to a realization. Psycho-Pass is, hey, this is a world governed by this system, and you as a viewer go, isn't that flawed? And they're like, yes, it is. How about we make a season exploring that, and then we'll do another season exploring that. So it's very similar to the first season where it's exploring the themes of how wrong this system works. But the mysteries were great. I love the main character, that she's not just she's so untypical for an anime female main character. I love her. It was great. It wasn't as good as the first season, and it didn't hit quite the highs. It didn't have the same amount of twists, but it was good. It was very good. But a little melancholy, like certain other animes that we've watched. So
yeah, way to pile it on.
It's been a gloomy couple weeks. Okay, so the anime that we do need to talk about is Inuyashiki, The Last Hero. Let's do our non-spoilery reviews and get those out of the way so we can start tearing this thing open and seeing how the machine works.
I think I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Tearing it open because. Oh wait, the robot thing, right?
Robot's open. Jason, why don't you give your review?
I did not like this anime, and there's been a couple animes that we've had on the show that I haven't liked, and I give you guys a hard time for making me watch. This is the first one that I have regretted watching. And
it's interesting because from my point of view, it seemed like you walked away from it unsure and had to think about it and then decide on how you felt about it, which is the first time I've seen you do that. Usually it's like, I'm 2 episodes in, I hate you guys. Yeah. Why would you do this to me?
When we say we gave a warning a couple weeks ago about being mature theme, and it's definitely over the top mature. And I've been battling in my own brain, like, were the writers just trying to play off this, like, Westworld, Game of Thrones, like, hardcore, let's try and just throw as much at this as at the viewer as possible to try and keep them interested, or at least try and get attention. And I think it was the wrong path, or at least it was for me. I did not look forward to any, like, after the second episode, I just did not look forward to watching the next one. And every other episode, most of them, disappointed me to then want to watch the next one. And it would just cut this cycle.
So interesting note, and I want to point this out because usually I do. The manga that this is based on, but really the story, is written by Hiroya Oku, who did Gaunt's. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how Jeremy plays off of what you just said, because he's the only one of us who's seen Gaunt's, and from what I understand, that's got pretty dark, mature violence as well.
So the one thing I was fighting with is, you might watch a Marvel movie or a DC movie where there's this mass mayhem and all the death and destruction is kind of off camera.
Yeah. And
because you're focusing so hard on these heroes.
I was thinking through the same thing when I was actually watching Psycho-Pass. Like, there's a lot of death and violence and blood in that, but like, it's, someone gets shot and you get the sense that they're going to swell up and blow up, and usually, like, the camera will cut away at the last second, and then you see the blood hit the wall, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
But so my frustration and struggle that I'm having internally is, do I have a consistency to call this anime out for it when I enjoy other movies where I don't see it, but I know this is an integral part of the plot, that bad guy A is slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people. So that's something that I'm still fighting with. But for it to be thrown in my face, I think that's one of the reasons it was really rough for me. So.
Right, Jeremy, how about you? Especially, I want to hear your thoughts with Gaunt's being a framework.
I was actually thinking about this a little bit earlier this week, but especially when you just made this comment, it kind of clicked in my head, at least. It seemed pointless, the graphic scenes and the violence in this. I can't say the same for Gaunt's. In Gaunt's, it's more gory and more graphic than this, I would say, by far. But you feel that things are at stake through the whole season. At least I did. And you really get attached to some of the characters. You can almost forgive the producers, the writers, for coming up with a storyline that could be so crass and difficult to watch at times in Gaunt's. In this, I never really felt connected to the characters. Their actions didn't seem warranted in some cases, especially when we talk about the main bad guy, the villain. And they just seemed, they were arbitrary. And because of that, I think that the gore became something, not even the gore, but just the violence became something that was grating and irritating to watch. There were other things about it that were also grating to me, mainly dealing with the dialing emotions up to 15. I think I put it in our chat earlier. because everybody's always weeping and wailing about something. And yes, things are tragic, but it was written to be that way. And getting hit with tragedy after tragedy after tragedy and hearing the same wailing, it also became very grating. So I've got to say that in the end, for me, this anime has a very, very few good things in it that I enjoyed, but the vast majority I did not enjoy. And I would say go look for YouTube videos about Ichiro. Go watch vignettes about his scenes.
Or rather, don't.
Just Ichiro. Yeah. Leave the rest.
So Troy, before you give your review, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this. We have a scene in this anime that is very similar to the scene in Ajin, where the main bad guy is trying to be taken down by an elite SWAT team. I look back on that scene in Ajin and go, that was a cool scene, even though he takes out the entire force. I didn't feel that way about this one, and I don't know why. And I wanted to see if you had thought about that parallel, and if you haven't, what thoughts you might have after your review.
Okay, I'll give my review first. And I've said this to you guys before. It finally cemented in my head how I feel about this. There is an anime in here I liked a whole lot, and it was about the main character. And there's an anime in here that I really, really hated about the villain. And there's almost no in between. There's no this was meh. It's I like, and then I hate. So what it comes down to me is, one of my biggest things about liking anime is, did you show me something I've never seen before that only anime can do? And I feel this anime does that. I feel like I've never seen anything quite like this. It's presented in a completely way that anime can handle. And so for that, I do not regret watching this. But I would not recommend it to others to watch. I would not ask others to come on this journey. I don't feel that it just holds up to do that. If someone watched it, I'd be like, oh, did you like this part and this part? And like I said, I don't regret watching it. I don't feel others should. That's just me. As far as what Jason's talking about, I guess I just kind of saw that as an action scene, and there is one action scene probably in this whole anime where everything else was kind of, Superman doesn't, it's a difference between Batman having a fight and Superman having a fight versus a normal bad guy. Superman just wins because he does. And that's that's very much what this anime presents and wants to present. That's what it's going for. And whereas Ajin was, I have this power, but I still have to work for it. There's still.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And it hurts. It costs every single time.
Right.
Yeah. I draw a lot of parallels with this anime and Superman, which is weird. And there's another work of fiction I'm going to bring up later. But before we get to our spoiler section, let's talk about the opening theme song and the closing theme song. Probably more the opening than the closing.
Yeah.
Opening was great.
Awesome.
It's funny. When the very first time I saw the opening, I thought not only was this song amazing, the visuals were great. The animation was decent. Sometimes the animation didn't feel believable as far as anime is because it was heavy 3D CGI. And we've had that discussion whether 3D CGI counts as anime or not. I'm not going to get into
I do want to touch on that in the spoiler section too. I do actually want to touch on the CGI use.
But if I'm going to judge it on purely its art usage, I think it wasn't done as well as other 3D heavy animes. Some of the shots were actually very believable where you wouldn't think it was 3D. So, but back to the opening, it's amazing that it gave this somber feeling just in the opening. And I actually like that because I felt like going, we're going to get a really interesting story, which we did. And, but then, my review. So,
when I first, in the first episode, I had no idea what Inuyashiki was. No idea. So when the intro started playing and I saw all the robot parts, I'm like, oh, this ain't so cool. Because, I love robot stuff. And seeing everything get assembled and put together in the end, you get this human being. That was really intriguing. So yeah, the intro was great. The music was awesome, and the music video that you found was hysterical and awesome too.
Yeah, it's a band that wears wolf heads, big cosplay wolf heads for when they perform, and then that music video is just bonkers as well. It's more bonkers than the anime intro was.
He's like pushing an old lady in her cart because he's like, "I'm helping. I'm a superhero."
So I really like the intro. The outro was, but I want to point out two things. And so I saw this on Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. But from my understanding, the red ball and the blue ball, if you line them up one way, it means death. And if you line up the other way, it means leader. And that over the course of this intro, they do switch. They start with the blue on the left and the red on the right in the title. And then by the end, when the balls clink together on the track, they have switched positions. So I don't know if it goes from death to leader or leader to death. And again, that's Reddit, so grain of salt.
That's really interesting, though. If it is true, that's really cool.
The only thing I want to say about the outro is that they did this thing I love that animes do, is that they play the outro with the closing credits during like an epilogue scene or ending scene, so that it brings that, I've been hearing that song, and then now it's emotionally tied into a scene. And I do love it when an anime does that and does it well. And I do think they did this well in this anime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then we can go to spoilers, because obviously we have a lot to talk about. So spoiler warning, from here on out, we are going to be talking about characters, plot, and theories, and a lot of stuff. So turn it off if you don't want to hear any further. Now, to start off with, I absolutely love the first episode. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to love this anime because we are introduced mostly to the character Ichiro Inuyashiki. The whole robot thing doesn't even really come into play that much, and we just meet this sad old man. He just bought it. He built his family a home.
Bought one, and he built it. Yeah,
right.
And I thought he bought the property and had it built so that it would be cheaper, but
really,
and that he worked for this. And they get there and his family's like, oh, we're behind a giant building in the shade, and this house sucks. And then they leave him while he's unpacking, and he's just so sad. And then he finds out he's got cancer, and he's got weeks to live. And we see him adopt this puppy dog, and his family's like, what do you want a dog for? And he's like, I love this dog.
Yeah, basically everybody's spitting on him, basically. I mean, emotionally, he has no reason to live. He knows it. And now he's going to die. And this dog is the only thing that's showing him love that he happened to find on the side of the street in a box. I was like, this is awful. You're really piling on the pathetic level really high here. It's interesting, but be careful how much farther you go.
So this is our main character, Ichiro Inuyashiki. What did you guys think of him?
I was instantly invested in him in this first episode. There were so many things that I could relate to, as far as being a dad, as far as feeling that your kids might not like you. Every time he went to try and tell someone that, hey, I have 3 months to live, they treated him so poorly. He was they're like, oh, did you want to say something? He's like, no. Oh my God, this guy's so basically he's alone in a house full of people. And your heart goes out to this old man so much. And the thing is, he's not that old. He's not even 60. And he looks, and they call him cyborg grandpa. He doesn't have grandchildren.
No. He's just a dad. He's just a middle-aged man, yeah. but his body just looks old from wear and tear.
And cancer.
The first thing we see is complaining about his back.
Yeah, so poor guy. But yeah, I actually really liked him most of the way through the anime. I don't feel he got the attention that he deserved. This anime should have been purely about him, and I think I would have adored this anime.
I'm okay that they had a other side of the coin character in the anime, but it should have been 90% Ichiro.
Yes.
And then just like, hey, there's also a dark version of him out there, and it almost was completely the opposite of that.
And an asteroid.
And aliens.
Okay, the aliens are a Deus Ex Machina, but they're supposed to be like...
Oh, yes, and fantastic job, aliens. Oh, did we damage anything? Yes, we damaged 2 humans. We must fix this, because we don't want to leave any evidence that we were here.
I was thinking about that. Like, I knew you were going to call that out. Like,
fantastic job, aliens.
Like 2 people disappearing would be way less suspicious than robot men flying around. And also the line, they're going to destroy the planet. That's not my problem. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Then why do you care enough to rebuild them?
Rebuild them. Right.
Yeah.
Great job, aliens.
And this whole idea of an asteroid is so secondhand.
Oh, like, God, it was inane.
I think it's brought up maybe 3 times in this whole entire anime, and it's like, wait, there's a world-ending asteroid.
Okay, remember, we're supposed to be talking about a character and not the anime yet. We'll get to that.
Okay, sorry. I'm just so angry about that plot point.
A little off track.
So awful.
Ichiro was awesome. His scenes were the best. He stole the show. He should have. He was the main character. I mean, every time that he was on an adventure, I was riveted to the screen. I wanted to know what was going on. I love his fighting style. He has the best fighting style I've ever seen in an anime for a hero. Basically just flailing his arms around, and, you know, if he gets lucky and makes contact, the enemy's out of a fight. Sure, they're all landing hits like crazy, but what's it going to do? He's Robot Grandpa, Cyborg Grandpa, right? He's awesome. I love the scene where he's like, he'd eaten dinner and he doesn't know he's a robot yet, but he feels that something's off. And so he's up in his room and he feels weird, and his arm like opens up and he just starts freaking out and screaming, and it goes off. And I'm like, oh no, is he like shooting through the wall and destroying stuff and killing people? No, that's his dinner. He just shot out onto the wall.
What did he shoot? Oh no, he regurgitated through his arm.
He vomits out his arm cannon now. Like, he had great scenes.
I think what I really, really appreciated about him is his awkwardness. Mm-hmm. And more than half of his fights he lost, and he only ends up prevailing due to his like automated defense system when he gets knocked out. I think that was fantastic writing. Because that is so realistic to someone that has no idea they're a robot. They find out they're a robot, and then they try and put themselves in these heroic situations and constantly being, knocked unconscious.
Exactly. And with like no combat experience, and with him being so used to being frail and old, and yet you see him on the train at the intro where he's like, he sees teenagers are bullying a grandma on the train, and, you know, he's clenching his fist and he really wants to say something, but he knows that it's not really going to do much. So you know that the desire to do right is there, but he's had no experience to practice. So when he does get the power, doesn't really know what to do with it.
Right. Except flail his arms. Yep. That's so great.
I love. Okay, so I absolutely adore this character. I've said long after I've forgotten this anime, and that day can come soon. I will remember this character because I absolutely love this character. He's the best thing about this anime. I would have enjoyed another season of just him doing hero stuff. He is a analog to Superman in my mind, of, you know, godlike powers and a regular man making the right choices and being inspirational, and I absolutely loved him. And I love his admittance to his own flaws. He's like, my whole life I overcare, but I was too weak to do anything about it, and it just made me feel pathetic. And that's, you know, kind of how he gets into that situation. He does cry too much, but he knows that, and it's very much it's very much character development for how much he cried. Like a cat dies, and he's wailing about this cat. Like, oh, no, but I actually like. There's other characters that also wail on this, and I'm like, meh. When he does
all of them,
when he does it though, it very much fit with his character. It very much went with who he was, and I love that speech at the end to his son when he talks about that, or when he's flying and he talks about, I was this guy who overwailed, who overcared. I'm over empathetic, and I just couldn't do anything about it. And now I can. Now I have purpose. And man, I love this character. So that's my thought. Like I said, I see a lot of people hate Superman because they find him boring, but I see what Superman, his theme is what makes him interesting, and I saw this character embodying that in this anime, and I really appreciated that. Like I said, episode 1, introducing, like you said, when the aliens a UFO crashes, he goes to the park to cry about his cancer. A UFO just lands on him, and him and another random teenager who's in this crowd. Or who's on this park, and they die, and they're rebuilt as robots with the weapon units because that's all they had left.
Great job, aliens. Great
the
job.
Alien thing is completely stupid, and they go through it as fast as they can because it's supposed to be. Like it's not it's nonsensical, and they know it. The whole point of this is when humans get godlike powers, what do they do with it, and then explore that. And they use the stupidest thing, the silliest thing off the top of their head to give them their godlike powers.
I don't know if I have anything better to offer, but yes, that is just so painful.
As painful as it was, though, I was actually okay with it.
I was fine.
Because of how fast and non-attached that point to the story was, and actually the entire story was not about that, I think I was okay with it because I like Troy said, what do people do with these things, and then how do we give these people these powers? Oh, aliens crashed. Fine. Let's move on and tell the story. It's when you also added the asteroid in is when we can get to that.
I was okay with it until about episode 7 or 8. And then I started looking at the sheer amount of damage that was being wreaked upon Tokyo, and I was like, you guys made a horrible decision, you idiot aliens. That was terrible.
We I guess we just don't know their reason for why that was important. Maybe it was like, hey, no, we didn't actually kill anybody, no harm, no foul, but they destroyed the planet. Well, that wasn't us.
Right.
I don't know what quota or rule they think they're getting away with.
Yeah.
Because they definitely, obviously, do not care about our planet.
Federation law says we must not interfere. Rebuild them, quick. Shove it under the rug.
After he realizes he's a robot, and I love that they can open up their faces, and there's like a computer core and like a hollow head. There's just this computer core sitting. After he goes through all this discovery, he's in the park one night, and a homeless man who's just about to get his life back together is assaulted by teenage kids. This is a theme that's going to come up a lot, is teenage kids, and I want to bring that up later. They start shooting like fireworks at him, and instead of walking away like he probably would have had to do in the past, he goes and tries to get involved, gets knocked out, automatic defense system turns on, knocks the kids on all their butts, and then uploads a video to the internet of them assaulting this man with their identities plastered everywhere, and so that their lives are just ruined. And then wakes up, drinks water, because water is fuel for these robots.
That's convenient.
Yeah, it kind of works if they're powered in some way, like a really fast operating fusion based off of deuterium or something. Then theoretically, with some kind of alien technology, they could extract the hydrogen from that.
I like that at least. I think we need to give them a limit, and the fact that they can run out of water is that limit.
They sure go through it fast, though. It doesn't take much deuterium for a reactor rod. So,
and this leaves him crying because he feels human again from saving this man, which will become his motto, his theme, his call to heroism, right?
Yeah. I thought when this whole scene happened, I thought he was killing the kids. And I was thinking, do I agree with him? Do I disagree with him? I think I'm kind of okay with what he was doing, just because of with him killing them. In my mind, that's what he was doing.
He was automated too.
It was automated.
It wasn't.
Yeah, and I was wondering where the automation came from. Are the aliens tacked back in? Is it just a system that runs based on his subconscious?
Because certain decisions are made later that really lines up with his personality.
And so then when I found out that, oh no, he was actually just basically ruining their lives because of the lives that they've probably already taken. This didn't seem like the first time that they had gone out and hunted for homeless people, which, they kill them. So
Well, and yeah, they made it very clear before his little missiles went off that these kids were intending to murder this man.
Don't hit him in the head. They stop moving then. Hit him in the head last after you've broken everything else.
Right.
So once again, you have like the most villainous of villains too. Like the way they're presented is just, I don't know, it's dialed up.
Yeah, because I think a more realistic scene would have been kids shooting off fireworks. Once they're out of fireworks, they all run off. Right.
Right. Yeah. Just like pick on him, poke him with a stick kind of thing.
Right.
So now that we're done with episode 1, I want to say about episode 2, exact opposite reaction. I hated this episode, which is going to play everything into how I view this anime. Like I was even, I love this episode. Oh, I hate this episode. Because this is the episode where we meet the villain of our story, Hiro Shishigami, who was the teenage boy that was also in the park. So he also has a robot body. Before we get into his plot, let's share our thoughts. Jeremy, you probably hated him the most. I think we all hate him.
I hate him so much. This character, I think not only is he gratuitously violent, but he's a sociopath, a psychopath, and he has no reason for any of the things that he does. And that's one of the things that's really frustrating. And I mean, yeah, you could argue all kinds of things in defense of some kind of justification for his actions, right? You could say, oh, look, they've established that he's a sociopath and a psychopath by references to his youth and how he would kill or maim little animals and things like that, right? That's standard. That's accepted, well known. You could also say that because he's a robot, he's received the bad end of the bargain and it just exacerbated his negative qualities or something like that. But throughout the anime, we just see him repeatedly make decisions that are so impulsive and short-sighted that you can't seem to attach yourself to him as a character. He sways at things that shouldn't sway. For a sociopath or a psychopath, to have his mother say, oh no, this would be a bad thing, I would hate this, and then he's like, okay, I won't do it anymore, to himself, and then just flipping back and forth at just the influence of these people that he just arbitrarily decides. Being a sociopath, remember, he doesn't have empathy. That's the thing with a sociopath. And so to not have empathy and yet say I'm empathetic to these particular people is kind of a cop out. And so I found it really frustrating because he was all about I do what I want to do, and when somebody is going to try to make me face the consequences, well, I'll butcher them. And then more people want to make me face the consequences for that, I'll butcher them too. In the end, you're going to burn the world and you'll be the only one left standing. And he's okay with that. And I'm just like, I just can't stand that character.
Yeah, it's
disgusting. And there's so much more, but I won't take all the angry ranting on him.
I think that's a big part of it is the inconsistency with the character. You want to have a bad guy? Fine, he's a bad guy. Make him a bad guy. Not sway him to a Jesus-like character halfway through the anime. That just didn't make sense. Nor were the motivations there to do it. This character was not only badly written, but felt so shoehorned into this story that he ended up being the main focus of most of the episodes, and that was frustrating. And every time he was on screen, I regretted watching the anime. Every time he came on, I didn't want to watch the episode anymore. I seriously contemplated skipping time just to get past his shots, and I didn't. But yeah, I didn't like his character. I didn't like the way he was written. And I didn't like his choices or the way he interacted with the story. I understand that to have this dichotomy, you need a villain to the hero. Fine. But it did not click. It did not make sense to me.
Yeah. I think I agree mostly with everything you guys have said. I especially don't like the way they present the hero. I almost feel like there's a good villain backstory if you start his story halfway through. If you just ignored everything that happens, like in the first couple episodes that feature him, and then maybe from like when his mom gets cancer on. Mm-hmm. I can almost see a villain story where like things just kind of start spiraling out of control, and with his loss of humanity, he's just making worse and worse choices and digging himself deeper and deeper. I can almost get into that story. It's not great, but I can almost see. Like from there on, I was almost like, God, I can track his villain arc. But then when we start here in episode 2, and it's like, no, I don't care about that anymore. You went too far in the start with him. How am I supposed to go back and now care that that he cares about his mom? And I don't think he's a true sociopath. And to be fair, I hardly know anything about, except for what I see in movies and televisions about mental illnesses. And I completely admit that. But it's very clearly established he cares about one character at the start of this thing, and always has. And that's the other character we're going to meet soon, Ando, who he reads mangas with. And then we see he cares about his mother, even his other family he seems to care about. And then another character comes along that eventually he cares about too.
And her grandma.
So I've been thinking about this character way more than I want to. And what I keep coming back to is like, what is the author trying to say with him? Is he trying to make commentary on youth culture through this character? And I do think there's a millennial thing, not millennial, the next generation after, the young people, where they are a little detached from value of human life. Yeah. Because of internet, bleeding into the world. I even see my kids and their friends, they make death jokes like it's not that big a deal. And I'm always like, hey, no, that's not a joke. You don't make fun of that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff just seems to pop up in their vocabulary more. And I'm wondering and I looked up that the writer of this is 50 years old. So I'm wondering if he's commenting on what he sees as Japan youth culture. And one thing I kept coming to is Hiro like a Holden Caulfield of this story? And I realized that's comparing McDonald's food to like a 5-star restaurant. Okay. They're both food. And that's what I'm saying. I think they might be both food. They're definitely different in quality, but Holden Caulfield also is a character that is kind of a horrible character. He really doesn't like people, but he does have a few people that he likes. And maybe that hero is Holden Caulfield with godlike powers and just goes too far with them.
Who is that?
Catcher in the Rye protagonist.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which is a story.
What's that?
That is a story about a youth facing adulthood, and it's youth commentary, and it really explores and when I read it, I was like, man, I hate this character. I did not like Holden Caulfield. He is written as a jerk. He is immature. He makes horrible decisions. And then at the end, he finds his little sister, and he's like, oh, this is the one thing that brings me happiness and joy, and I take care of this. And I saw parallels of that with Hiro, where he has characters that he cares about, but he hates most people. He thinks everything is stupid and fake, and he's completely fine with it, just bleh. But it's not presented well. Like I said, I have a huge problem with the way they start him off.
You can say all that
stuff. Try to reel it back.
Well, the problem is that you can say all that stuff, and it, like you said, halfway through and beyond would fit. Unfortunately, the first couple episodes show him as a literal serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say those things about a serial killer.
Yeah. Ichiro actually makes a really good point right away. It's unforgivable. No, and he's right. It is unforgivable.
And I agree.
And I think you're absolutely right that introduction to him is so bad that what can you do with the character at that point? You've kind of thrown yourself into a horrible corner. You can just kill him, and that's about it. But another problem was that we couldn't have Ichiro encounter him and actually have the big climactic battle, because that has to happen at the end of the anime. They have to work up to that because they're so powerful.
Right. I felt frustrated on a couple of scenes where it's like, why is Ichiro's like, I gotta find him, and then this huge thing happens and Ichiro doesn't show up, and I feel like you could have.
Exactly. I get that. It was very, it was very artificial there.
So that whole rant I just gave, like I said, I'm just trying to get into the writer's head of what he wanted to do with this character. No matter what he wanted to do, I think he did it badly. I do not like this character. I agree. It's poorly written and it's badly executed.
Mm-hmm. The gratuitousness was just unnecessary.
What was the writer trying to say with him, though? Was he trying to comment like, man, kids today, if you gave them godly powers, they would just murder us all?
I never got that impression when I was watching it. It's interesting. It's an interesting perspective and idea, possibly. But no, I don't know if it was just that I was pulled into the fantasy, the sci-fi of it, and was trying to imagine the characters in their own world, because I do like to do that. And so I didn't think to apply it to any real world implications. I don't have anything there. He just seems like a poorly developed character to me.
Short rant here. This felt very... So when you say, what was he trying to say? What it said to me was, I need to make sure you know this guy's a bad guy. And it was over and over again. You getting punched in the face with, this guy's a bad guy. See? He's a bad guy. Did you see he's a bad guy? Did you see the horrible thing he did?
With the healing stuff and
Exactly. And also there are other villains in this anime they do the exact same thing with. Scene after scene after scene of, hey, did you notice he's bad, right? Yeah, this guy right here, he's bad.
Right.
And I'm just it was nauseating to watch.
Just know that as I watched this, I grappled with, is the writer trying to comment on the duality of man, that there's a good part of us that if it was given godlike powers, we would save people, we would go out of our way and sacrifice and do all this stuff. And then there's a darker side that we all have, that we would, kill people discriminately and maybe not even take it that far, but that we have this dark side where if we had godlike powers, we would use them for our own selfish satisfaction.
If that's the case,
else mattering. Or was he trying to say, and they even use the phrase like the best generation about talking about Ichiro. Like, are they trying to say like older generation had all these values and this younger generation doesn't have them, and that if this situation became like this is how these generations to the writer would handle it? And either way, he does not present it well, and because I couldn't figure it out. And even if he is trying to say that, I don't think I agree with him. Just so you know, that kept going through my mind over and over as I was watching.
I think I might agree with him if that's what he's saying.
Well, so every generation says that about the next generation. Right. Literally. Like our parents said that stuff about us. Their parents said that about them.
Know if my parents ever said that the next generation, if they got ultimate power like this, would just butcher everybody they didn't like.
No, not that. But that they're
but then they would use it for complete.
They're
selfish.
Don't value life. They're selfish. Yeah.
They don't hold up to my moral level. And that's the big thing. Like, each generation thinks that the next generation lowered the moral bar.
I think it always depends on who it is in the generation. Every generation is made up of so many different people. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like I'm
saying as an average.
But
you can look at like news reports throughout the years. There's always some story that's like, is next generation blah 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 more selfish? I don't agree. I don't agree.
You took us further down this rabbit hole than I meant to. I just wanted you to know what was going through my head. That when I was watching Hero, that was the only thing that actually got me through Hero stuff, was trying to figure out this, and I never did. And I hope maybe the audience will, but it's just poorly done.
I thought whenever I was thinking about it more as you were talking, and what I saw was a brave choice to try to make the main character an old man and to have the young person be a villain, because it's not so unusual to see.
Yeah, very anti-anime style, right?
Absolutely. And so to me, that was the main reason why he did it, was
I like that.
To kind of break the mold that has been established so much. And I was watching it for that reason, thinking this is pretty cool. I really like this. I mean, when I saw the intro, I was like, oh, who's that evil old man going to be? He's going to be terrible. And then he's the good guy.
He's a precious baby.
He's a precious baby.
Okay.
That's what it was for me. Yeah.
So we gotta keep going. Hero notices that a schoolmate is missing from class and ends up being from bullying. So he goes to visit him, and this is the character Ando. Great little Easter eggs in Ando's room with Gon's posters on the walls.
I love that so much. And
there is a joke about One Piece fans that can be made that I'm not going to make, but I've seen on the internet be made, and it's like cheeky. But we do need to talk about Ando, who is ends up becoming Ichiro's like connection to figuring out his powers into modern day technology, which he is now beyond. So, what do you guys think of Ando?
I actually really appreciated Ando. I thought he was the balance I needed to get myself through this anime when it came to Hiro. And what's interesting is no one gave 2 cents about Ando at school. Like, no one cared he was there. He was getting bullied, so he stayed home. But Hiro decided that, they were longtime friends from elementary school, that he was going to go get him back to school. And unfortunately, even then, if that meant taking care of the bullies. And I think what I really appreciated about Ando is that he held onto his moral standards, despite the fact that this only person from school that took interest in him, what seemingly cared about him, but he was still able to hold on to his morals. And I actually really like that, because if we're going to tell the story of this young man that does terrible things, you could easily see another young man piggyback off of those powers and just kind of try and reap the benefits.
Right.
And so I actually like this character. He's a good balance to the terribleness that we see.
Yeah, Ando's my second favorite character after Ichiro. He was the only one who knew the danger that Hiro posed, and knew that at any moment, if Hiro changed his mind or wanted to kill Ando, Ando's dead. And he also was not so confident that Hiro cared about him to the degree that he wouldn't kill him either. Right. He seriously felt threatened on multiple occasions. And so he was a really interesting character to watch in the whole mixing pot here, because he's the person without power that's trying to balance and manipulate things to make sure that the bad guy doesn't win. In a way, he's as much the hero as Ichiro.
Yes,
because
I'd agree
he's
with that.
Constantly working against Hiro. And so I really liked Ando for that reason.
I don't have the same affection from you guys do. I like what you said about him. I just don't dislike him. I kind of didn't. I like the Easter eggs he brought. I liked how he served the plot. He has some good scenes. But I just didn't really get attached. Maybe I was like I said, I was overthinking about a lot of other stuff, and I might have just kind of let him slide by me.
If I might too, the idea you had earlier about possibly being a commentary on the younger generation versus the older generation, Ando would be the evidence that the writer views the younger generation as having
potential,
just as many people that would have potential, because this character played a very large role, was powerless, and yet still chose to do good. So it may not have been, if it was an intention of writing something of that sort.
I really hope we're not. I don't want to give the writer too much credit for that too. I don't. Yeah. I really hope. I don't want that to become a thing we always go back to.
What was in the writer's head?
Honestly, I've never thought that much about an anime. That thought going in my head, like, what is he trying to even say with it? It might be because of certain Madoka Magic comments that made me feel like maybe I need to analyze on a whole nother level.
But you see, we won't understand it unless the writer's also a baka. We just won't grasp it.
So he visits Ando, and he ends up, I hate it. Okay. It was strange that he asked, "Have you seen these killings? Are you the killer?" And I was like, "Wait, which one's the robot? I thought he was the robot. He's in the intro." And for a second, I was confused. But then he shows him that he's a robot, and then starts showing him his powers, doing on a scaling level of like horrible things, killing birds, putting porn on television, and then causing huge car wrecks. And
stealing money.
Yep. Ando gets very uncomfortable with this, but he suggests, "Hey, you could be a superhero," and Hero's like, "Oh, I mean, I could."
Sounds like a pain.
Yeah. And then comes a scene, and I'm not going to describe it. Basically, Hiro goes into a home, or this random home, and murders a family. There is a child death scene in this. In all our time of doing Baka Baka, I've never even had the thought of turning this off, calling it off. Let's move on to another anime. I don't even know how that would work with our format. I don't know if we could reach the audience in time, right? But this thought went through my head. This scene left me shaking. I have small children. I've had tragedies in my past, this hit personal fears on levels I've never had before. This also is gratuitous violence to the point where I was sick. And for me, I mean, there's horrible things throughout this anime. This thing got me, and the fact that it's episode 2, I'm like, how? If you escalate from here, I'm not going to be able to handle it. So, what I really just wanted to say is, there is a counterpoint in my head that when I watch a story, I'm expecting the creators to create hooks. They're dig into me, find my emotions, and play them like a fiddle. And like I said, this found a fear inside me that I don't even bother to register. The powerlessness that you truly are in your own home. You know that you know how exposed you are when you're trusting of the community around you and stuff. And I don't know if it deserves kudos for that or not.
Yeah, in a way, it made you feel threatened by. It made you consider the question: what if somebody actually had this power and they could come in and do this?
Right, as
feel that threat. Yeah,
right. I mean, like I said, it just hits so close to home that I was very uncomfortable. I think I probably would appreciate it if it hadn't been so gratuitous. Maybe just to dabble with the fear, like, because there is other things that are even just as bad that are suggested and then not shown. And I think that is a much better way to handle something like this in storytelling. That's all my thoughts on it. I'll let you guys say yours, and then we'll just go ahead and move on.
I actually have a lot of parallels with Troy with this. And yeah, this scene did exactly what you said. It had that connection into your fears, and there's lots of tragedy I've seen in anime, and a lot of the tragedy ends up hooking me so hard to a character that I am invested. I want to see them succeed, or I'm scared for them. This made me so invested in watching this character die. I wanted nothing more than this character to end. Mm-hmm.
His sympathy is gone. And you cannot bring it back.
And you mentioned something interesting, because for me, this is episode 3, and they started Hiro at an 11.
2. There's episode 2.
Oh, okay. We're still in episode 2. So at the end of 2, well, actually, like halfway through 2 and then into 3, like to start at an 11, it's like, where do you go from here with this character? And I just was floored. And like I said, I wanted nothing more than this character to end. And because of that, I wanted this anime to end. And it was one of the reasons I regretted completing it, is because not only did it take, you had to have him for the entire anime as that duality between the two. He got a redemption story, and that pissed me off. This character did not deserve one. And I have a lot more terrible things to say, but I will keep.
There'll be lots of opportunities. Yeah. This scene was shocking to me. You had already mentioned that it was, there were some pretty rough things coming up, but I don't know. I don't have the connection because I'm not a father. But I still wanted him to die. I didn't feel threatened so much as I felt angry, in the same way that I'm angry when I watch an anime and you see like some villainous person come in and rape someone or something, right? To me, it was in the same scale, the same category. When you're doing something to somebody helpless, or when you're watching somebody do something to somebody helpless, you as in the writer and artist, when they do something like that, there's this sense of pure distilled evil, that there is no moral grayness. There is no discussion of whether the actions were justified. It's very clear this person is pure evil. And when something like that happens, I'm completely in your guys' boat. I hated the redemption arc. There was a moment where I was like, okay, was it the robot? Does it have something to do with that? Is there a bug in his software? I could work with that. But then when they said he had childhood, a history of then I was like, okay, no, this is him. This is not the robot. So he doesn't get a redemption arc.
It's really interesting that what you said about the pure evil, and they actually had a decent. This guy's evil, and he's getting his comeuppance with the Yakuza, and we'll get to that. But that fairly paid off. But again, that was an Ichiro story.
Yeah, it was quick too. It was quick.
Exactly.
It didn't last like 11 episodes.
This guy's bad guy. He's doing terrible things, and then he gets his comeuppance, and that was fairly satisfying to watch. Mm-hmm. But again, that was an Ichiro arc. So,
it was. I'll add this. It was endearing at the end of this episode, and then in the next episode, because Ichiro shows up, and he gets shot by Hiro's finger gun, which I imagine the finger gun pissed you guys off.
Oh, I hated that thing.
Okay. Yeah,
sonic waves. Sonic weapon, right?
The worst part for me was when he started shooting through his palm out of TV screens and smartphones.
So that's why I'm saying Sonic, right? It had to be using the speakers.
The speakers aren't outfitted on Sonic.
Yeah, like who could they hit that
speakers?
Right. No. It's some sort of energy that he can make materialize if he's got a lock on a location. Is the best thing I could come up with.
I was fine with it until he cupped his hands to hold a machine gun and wasn't pointing anything anymore. I was imagining stuff was coming out of his finger, like air or sound waves. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he has an invisible weapon in his finger. And then he doesn't use his finger. I'm like, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, it's just the magic attack that doesn't have to be described. And I hate that.
Right.
Anyway, back to what I was saying. Ichiro's reaction to the scene being so similar to my own only endeared me more to the character. He is just horrified by what's going on. That I did appreciate. And like I said, it just makes me like the character more. But not the writer, because you are the one who put this in here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The next episode, after Hiro flies away with rocket jets, and I do like that they put the rockets took space in the body, that they didn't just grow out of him. Cool. I mean, it actually kind of looks ugly because you have to have this open cavity in your back to have the rockets come out. But that made sense because where would they come from if you were still a solid body?
I did like some of the technology in this. It was pretty cool looking.
Before we get into even more worse stuff, the CGI, because a lot of it was used to show how them being their robot parts and how inhuman they were, it kind of fit. That it looked different than the rest of the animation. It didn't look great, but hey, they're not humans, so it kind of fit with what was going on. I was actually okay with the CGI in this when it was showing them opening up and being robotic.
I'd agree with that.
There were a couple of scenes where I noted. One was in a later episode when Mari is walking she's trailing her dad and Ando, and she's got her head down into the side, and just the way she's moving and the animation didn't.
Why bother using CGI at that moment and that kind of stuff?
Right. Yeah, it looked wrong to me. And there were several like that, but that one really sticks in my head. So yeah, it didn't always land, but it looked good most of the time.
We get a scene of Ichiro fighting off some gangsters who are just mugging a man to beat him up. And that's when we get to see old man fighting style, which Jeremy mentioned, which is great because he's flailing and he should be completely worthless, but because he's a super powered robot, when the flails connect, they just send him flying.
Yep.
I loved old man fighting.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
And then after that, we get the scene of Hiro getting Ando to go back to school, the bullies come in picking on him, and then Hiro using his gun to kill them at the school. And this is kind of Ando's breaking point where he's like, yeah, we're not friends no more. I'm done with you. And Hiro just says, fine, but don't you dare stop coming to school. And he's not doing it as a threat. He means well by that because he actually cares that this character goes to school. But yeah, this is Ando's breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
We see the cat die in front of Ichiro, and then
this is a great scene, by the way.
he reacts like he does.
Not the cat.
I love how like every time anyone cried, they had tears coming out both sides of the eyes and tears coming out.
Yeah, they
tears
always
with
the
snot
nose.
coming out of the nose,
Everyone
all the way
cries
around, following the nasolabial lines. I mean, it's just
a little bit much. And to your point about the crying, it does happen so often it loses its impact. I will completely agree to that. But he brings the cat back. He heals it, and he realizes he has healing powers,
which is very interesting in a weapon. Like we only have weapon equipment, but it can heal.
There's also a scene in this where he learns to use his own rockets to go save people from a fire, and it's one of my favorite scenes because to inspire himself to get the rockets to come out, he sings the Astro Boy theme song, and there was something awesome about this old man letting his anime geek out to activate his superpowers. And I was like, yes, I'm down with this. This made me feel a lot better after what happened before. Like I needed this. I needed something I could smile about.
What was great about this scene too is before he even attempts, he takes his shirt and like jacket off and like neatly folds them and puts them down on his briefcase. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And then people are walking by going, what's this weird grandpa doing?
It's better than just putting on sweatshirts. You know you're going to break them.
Right?
Well, I keep wondering, because he does tear his shirts periodically. I keep wondering, like, how does he like get away with that? He must have enough shirts that his wife doesn't notice. He just like...
No. So that's a thing that actually comes up in the beginning, and he mentions at the end, no one notices him. He is non-noticeable. It's just something about him. People do not pay attention to him, and that's been his whole life. So yeah, episode 4. We're not going to go into detail of it to save some time, but it's the Yakuza episode where it's kind of almost its own story that Ichiro enters in about halfway through, and about a Yakuza gang member who abducts women, drugs them, turns them into addicts so he can have his way with them. And then a woman who gets targeted, who's got a fiance. I like that she fought her way out first time. I really appreciated that. I love seeing her slice him open and get away. But
especially with the size difference, that was really cool.
But when they get her and her fiance get cornered by the Yakuza, Ichiro shows up, ends up saving them. This establishes that his healing powers can't always save people, but that they're not. CPR sometimes can. Which I liked. That was
kind of funny.
I like that there's you have godlike powers, but sometimes you're human. The human action is what you need to do to save someone. Yeah. I like what it was saying with that. And then Ichiro basically takes on the Yakuza and then gets knocked out, goes into that self-defense mode, and burns out all their eyes and severs their spinal cords.
Love that. So good.
I was actually going to ask you, like, would it have been more just? I mean, yeah, they're horrible, but should he have just killed them or leaving them in a hellish state for forever? And he says out loud, like, I'm leaving you like this so you can think about how horrible you've been till the day you die.
Yes. And you can't touch your loved ones. You can't see them. You can't, like, nothing. I actually think that it was a fantastic choice. And think about all of the people that these individuals have killed, and then all of the family members and friends of those people that are now dead. And think of the pains that they have dealt with and that they go all the time.
Just so we're clear, not siding with the Yakuza and thinking they deserve.
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to justify why I think it's a good thing.
My question is, like, Superman can't kill, right? But if Superman did this, people would still be like, "Whoa, Superman, that's a lot."
People would, but I wouldn't be one of them.
Right. So, but that was my thought. Like, he obviously is not willing to kill because he does not want to be a killing machine. That's very important to him. And that's why he takes this road. I was just wondering what your guys' thoughts on it.
It felt, it's funny you mentioned justice. It felt justified. Because I think it would have been easy to just murder them all. I mean, that would have been, I don't think that would have been as interesting. Mm-hmm. I think that the choice to make them paralyzed and blind was not only an interesting choice, but I think it was a better storytelling choice specifically for this scene. But the one issue I have with the entire arc was, again, here we are. They introduce someone they want you to know is a bad guy, and they make bad guy do things to pound it into your face that, hey, this is a bad guy. He's even bad to his own people.
Remind me never to join the Yakuza.
We're going to sauna.
God. And your choice of words to describe it just now. Wow.
I'll never go into the sauna. So yeah, that was the only problem I had with this arc. Besides that, I actually liked that they were like, "Hey, bad guy, he is pure evil. Ichiro saves the day and gives them justice," and I felt that was definitely a sweeter justice than just murdering them all.
Yeah. It was shortly after this, I think one episode later, I realized that there was a little bit of storytelling before the intro kicks off. I had always just skipped it and jumped past the intro. I realized it like an episode or two later, and so I went back and I watched all of them, just little intros, and I got to the one for episode 3 that you're talking about, and it completely ruined episode 4 and like the whole Yakuza arc for me, because I was like, I thought the Yakuza arc was really good, even though like there were things I didn't like about it. Like I found it frustrating that the pattern was so similar of, we get introduced to the innocent victim, just like it's the homeless guy, just like it's the guy who's going to get beat up at the bus stop, or the taxi stop or whatever. We get introduced to them, and then we see some like obvious, I'm the tough villain and I'm going to beat the crap out of you, kill you, or take your stuff. And the pattern was just so clear. That was a little frustrating, but overall I enjoyed how it resolved itself in the arc that it took. And then I saw that intro to episode 3 and I was like, what, why did you do that? You didn't have to go there. Like everything you established, he was a bad enough guy with what he did in episode 3 and 4, right? With trying to drug her and then killing her boyfriend. He was bad enough. Why did you? It's starting so high. Yeah. It's like you're showing all your cards every time, and it's just unnecessary.
I absolutely loved this episode, and I'm okay with what they did with this villain because he was a 1-episode villain. And I'm okay with being a little blunt on he's super, super evil. When I watched this episode, I was thinking, what you're going to do with this anime is have the horrors of mankind each episode, and then eventually Ichiro comes along, interjects in it with the hero story kind of happening in the background, maybe a little touch here, touch there to be faced at the end, the ultimate evil of mankind. And I was like, I'm kind of super into that.
I would have liked to watch that anime.
Yeah, because like it followed this format of like horrible things. Here's the characters. It's almost a Mushishi of Ichiro flying around as a robot man, saving people. I would have been into that anime.
Absolutely.
It seemed a little exaggerated for me, but I do see where you're coming from. Mm-hmm.
The next episode has Ando realizing that there is another robot person out there in the world and meeting up with Ichiro, and kind of a little bit of a training episode. And then they go, it's just them kind of hanging out. Like he takes them to a dump and uses his weapon powers and like, hey, how big a hole can you make? And he makes a real big hole, and then going to the hospital and healing people.
Actually, that's how I like that. That's how he found him, because he saw these news reports of like mysterious people are being, or people are being mysteriously healed. And he's like, is Hiro going around healing people? No, definitely someone else.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I did think that it was funny how like I really liked how the relationship took off and everything, and how it was almost like a Robin with no powers, right? Like somebody that's there to help you out and give you a little bit of guidance and maybe some tactical support. But I couldn't help it later on as things got serious and old Inuyashiki couldn't necessarily show up in the most, like fully dressed at the house. I was like, he's always knocking at the door and he's already got his shirt off and he's just there in his pants. He's like, yeah, I'm here to see your son. Come on, Mom. This is gotta be a red flag for you.
I think I appreciated that they did well was Ichigo wanted to go into these hospitals and help people and heal people. But if you know anything about hospital protocol like him sneaking into especially like little kids with leukemia sneaking into their rooms, like just saying that sentence, 50-year-old man sneaks into leukemia child's room in the hospital, like that screams, this is wrong. But he's literally going to save this kid's life. Yep. And he knows that there's no way can I talk my way out of this.
So he has to sneak around.
So I'm just going to sneak around and run out.
Yep. I thought it was really funny the way that they wrote these things, because it didn't have to be awkward. I mean, like, it's only as awkward as you make it in your mind, but it was like, wow, that seems a little awkward.
There is another storyline that kind of weaves through this episode, and that is leading to Hiro's big arc that we get. And it kind of really takes off with him finding out his mother has cancer. He does heal her, and we see him and his mom watching the news about the killings that he has performed, and she makes a comment on it. And he decides, okay, I'm going to be done killing because of his mom. And then that night, the cops show up to arrest him. And from there, he takes off. He fights him off, and he goes and ends up staying with the character Shion, who we are introduced as Pubehead, because
he's such a jerk. Like, he's a jerk in every way.
He's quite horrible, yeah. And we've established.
I have feelings for you. Arigato. And he walks off.
Oh, you're a Pubehead. That's what they call you.
And yet in the beginning, we see that he does like her. It's like, it's just weird.
So he ends up staying with her and her grandma because she believes he's innocent. And then in this episode, it's going all over the news who he is. His mother's on the news apologizing, and then he finds out that his mother commits suicide, which was kind of hinted at what she based on her comment from before. And then there's internet comments that were exposing him on 2chan. I'm not super aware of what 2chan is, but
okay, 4chan, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, Reddit and 4chan are often said synonymously, right. And they're usually just a hotbed of controversy. Right. People just like to get mad at them.
So he takes his anger out on these 2chan internet trolls, people who were commenting about his mother, commenting about him, and starts killing them one by one through their electronic devices.
I just don't get it. I don't get the way he kills them. It seemed like he was living out.
Okay, about the way he killed them, I'm like, I feel like his motivation was pretty clear at that point.
Yeah, no, his motivation was clear. Like, up until this point. Yeah, the mechanics made no sense. Up until this point, I was actually intrigued by the direction they took this character, because, like I said, I didn't know that he had the history of sociopathy, and so I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. And so for me, this redemption arc, I thought, okay, well, maybe he is more of a robot than a human right now. I did hear both of them say, I only feel human when I save for Ichiro and kill for this guy. And so I was like, okay, so maybe becoming this robot has really changed something in him, and he has to feel human. He has to do something, and killing is what seems to do it for him. And so for him to make this decision, and yet what I was hoping for was that his mother would not forgive him, and that she wouldn't commit suicide, but she would constantly be like this presence that is saying, no, you can't be forgiven for this, what you did. And then have him be battling with the concept and maybe developing a level of empathy, because he has to. But the direction that the story went instead, where like, oh, my mother commits suicide out of shame, so I'm going to go and massacre the news reporters standing outside of my dad's house because it's obviously their fault that she killed herself, not mine. They pointed at things that made her feel shame, and so she killed herself, not me doing the things. And then, also, these people on 2chan that I can't seem to, like, not read, just stop reading it. You are a super powerful robot. Just don't subscribe. Don't go on there and read the trolls' works. Instead, no, I have to kill them all because I'm sure my mother was reading 2chan. Like, come on. It was like getting an opportunity to see somebody live out their fantasy of wanting to bring justice and vengeance upon noisy internet trolls. And it's the stupidest thing.
I didn't get that. I saw it as him attacking. From the writer's point of view, I saw it as showing the villain attacking structures of power, media, internet, police, and just showing that there's no thing of power, not internet anonymity, the power of the media, the power of the police. Nothing can stop this villain.
Maybe that's what he was going for.
Jason, what was your take?
I thought it was dumb.
Clear, concise.
It really very much felt like a fantasy of I read something that directly offended me, and I wish I could beat up that person on the other side of the keyboard. And I really
that's a weird thing to tell through the hero character, or the character hero, who we've already established is the worst.
Right, and that's why it not only didn't work, but it felt unnecessary, and it didn't add anything to the story. That's why I kind of said it was dumb. This whole I'm going to rebel against all of Japan arc was just dumb. It was nonsensical, and I can't even see an irrationally emotionless teenager or young man losing everything and coming to this point. It was unbelievable. It was not believable for me.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I can see irrational behavior, and I can see, a young man doing something stupid that he regrets. But how far they went with it felt very disconnected and unbelievable for me.
Compared to like his earlier actions, like this seems way more in line than walking into a random home and murdering family.
Okay. If you're going to say consistency of the anime, yes, this made sense. Did anything he did in this entire anime feel like I could connect with it on some sort of realistic level? Absolutely not.
Right. No, I don't think you're supposed to.
No, not personally, but like, hey, I could see someone doing this. Like, this is not. It felt so far out of the realm of reality for me that I felt completely disconnected.
Did you ever see what was it? Suicide Squad, right? Did you see the Joker?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like when the Joker's laying in a circle of knives and weapons and stuff. Like that was this character through the whole thing for me. It's like,
no kidding.
It's what am I watching?
Right?
I can't stand him. I can't justify his actions. I can't make sense of him. He's just villainy for the sake of villainy. He's chaos, basically.
But isn't
selfish chaos.
Wait, but isn't that the point of the Joker?
Well, sure. And I mean, but that's the thing. I think, I brought it up, so it's my fault, but that was overacting, I think. But in this case,
I appreciate Jared Leto's take on the Joker.
I love him in a lot of other things.
How dare you?
But that was horrible. Oh, that was so painful.
Okay, that's a whole different discussion. I think let's just all agree that Heath Ledger did it best.
I can agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can find common ground there.
Yep.
In the next episode, we actually need to talk about Shion before we go into how this arc kind of closes out. I don't have a lot of thoughts on her. I actually really don't like the character because nothing makes sense of her decision making. When she finally is like, "No, you're a monster, go away," and then she's weeping for him. What is endearing her to him? Is it just the fact that she's been bullied her whole life, and this is it Munchausen syndrome? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because he's obviously going to kill her. He's carrying her around and he's like getting ready to let her go. And then she's like, "No, I want to stay with you. I want you to stay with me." And he's like, "Oh, okay." How did that reach you? I mean, yeah, you seemed to like have an interest in her at the beginning of the anime. It kind of expressed that. But is he that unhinged that he's always just on the edge? And like, if you say the right thing, then he'll love you forever and kill everybody for you and never want to kill you. And if you say the wrong thing, well, you're doomed forever. And
maybe it's connected to it. He comes from a broken home.
A lot of people come from broken homes that aren't that.
Well, no, absolutely. I'm sorry. It was just a wacky theory. Sorry. I'm gonna shut up.
How dare you?
I'm just because I agree that it's a turn of the dime. Why this character? Why does she feel that way about him? Why is he willing to do this for her?
It was just another opportunity for dial it up to 15 and everybody tears and snots everywhere.
Yeah, there was a scene where he was standing over both of the grandma and her sleeping.
Yes,
pointing
at
at
bang finger.
Yeah, he definitely. And when he flies with her, he's definitely going to kill her. He's starting to let go.
It would have made sense if he had offed both of them and used their apartment as a hideout.
Yeah, that's what
I think I would have bought that way more over than their interactions throughout the entire rest of the anime.
Yeah.
Not saying that's what I would have rather seen, but
it would have fit the character better.
I would have rather seen more Ichiro.
I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate for the literal devil. Like, hey guys, maybe we should try to see the devil's point of view, just so that someone is
offering some critical thinking.
Right, that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm kind of the problem is I super agree with you guys. So I'm just gonna keep going.
All right, let's roll.
So if he even admits to Shion later, like, hey, no, I am the killer. I'm a cyborg robot killer. And then he flies her up in the air. He's going to kill her. And then, like I said, don't leave us. Okay, I won't. I'll live with you forever. You got me. You hit my weak spot. You asked.
God.
And he then turns to healing people who are sick in an effort to redeem himself to her. Now, this is not for society's sake. This is not for anything other than to make her happy.
This isn't even for him.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
Which means, obviously, at some point, because he's not capable, even though he can cure all these things, he can't cure aging. And so that means she'll die eventually. And when she dies, what's going to happen?
Hey, guys, what about the old lady fart, though?
That didn't need to be there.
Okay.
I was like,
wow, the guy who went on and on for the comic artist.
Oh, okay. It's because of the tone of the anime. Like in this anime, it does not belong. Like if you had it in a different one, I would have laughed and thought it was great.
Would have been perfect.
Oh yeah. This anime was like, what? You expect me to laugh at anything that's taking place in this now? Especially when Hiro finds it funny. If Hiro finds it funny, I'm turned off. Like even if it was funny, I'm not going to laugh.
Just if he's on screen, I don't laugh.
Exactly. Yeah.
However, this after 2 months, things go bad because special forces attack. This was a weird scene.
Why did the special forces?
Yeah, they run in and shoot an old lady in the face. Like what?
So
and the girl.
I do have a theory on this, but there is another question. And that is, why is he still there 2 months later? Why is he still there?
They're doing the heal thing.
And he said he's going to be with them forever.
He can fly. He can take them somewhere else. He knows that the police and SWAT are looking for him. How did he not at least have a thought that at some point... I thought I couldn't hate him more.
That is made clear over and over and over that the writer thinks this kid is a dumb kid.
He is the dumbest. Oh,
criticism aside, we can't get too caught up on that.
Okay. The other question I had, or no, that was the question. The theory I had is, if you're harboring and abetting a fugitive and they don't know how much of a threat that you are, they don't understand how he's killing people. They just know that he has some gun that he's constantly using. So they probably, when they encountered the grandma and the daughter, they probably treated them as tangos that they don't know what threat they pose. If they try to intervene, get hostile, or try to stop you, you have to just take them out. You have clearance for, I could see that just because of how many people Heroes killed already.
No, I see it. It's hard at this point. Like after, if it happened after the cop scene, no Siri. If it happened after the police station scene, then I'm like, oh yeah, they see that he's a super threat. But I think maybe one or two people saw rocket engines at this point, and they don't really know much about his other powers.
Well, he did wipe out that entire news crew, which they were recording at the time. So, even though they don't understand fully just how dangerous he is until a little bit later, I think they're taking him and anyone who's harboring him seriously.
So he gets away, he kills them all and takes their bodies. He manages to heal them though, because we see them later.
Yeah.
So he does revive them, but he leaves them behind. We do find out later that he is like leaving them money and trying to take
Which
care of
they're
them.
not using.
Right. This is the first mention of an asteroid is coming to Earth. And people were like, oh man, hey God, Earth is going to be destroyed. Maybe we shouldn't be focusing on this serial killer. And then he does more bad stuff. And they're like, you know what? Let's talk about the serial killer. I think America's got the asteroid. We don't need to worry about it.
That was
Actually,
hysterical.
their interpretation of Donald Trump was hilarious.
Hey, let's save that for that episode because
Oh,
also let's not get that into it because yeah, no. This is the first time actually Marie kind of story. This is Ichiro's daughter. I didn't even realize she was the hot girl in the class that they had been talking about.
I missed it as well.
Oh no, I recognized her.
Yeah, something about Japanese girl with long dark hair looking the same because I'm a horrible person.
There was a moment where there were two girls and one was on a phone, and it was when Hiro was killing everybody through billboards and smartphones, and the girl was looking at her phone and she had the long hair and the I thought it was her. I was like, what? But no, it was someone else.
So she kind of gets a little bit of a spotlight here. What did you guys think of her?
I didn't care about her.
She's all right. The only reason I cared anything about her was because she was connected to Ichiro and that whole father-daughter disconnect that they had, and that the work to reestablish it once she noticed her dad. What's funny is she didn't even think about her dad until she got a little jealous tick from seeing Ando with him. Wait, hold on. I don't care about him, but now I kind of do because I've got someone moving in on my family territory.
Is Ando in the house in front of their house?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
so.
Well, wait a minute though, because it's Oda. Oda lives there.
Yeah, I know.
Ando's name is Choco. So
he lives in an apartment somewhere.
Similar big house because they stand in front of his house in this scene. She's like, "Wow, you have a big house," because his dad is a famous manga artist
too.
Well, that's not Ando.
Ando's dad is a famous manga artist too.
And Marie yells at him because he's like, "I'm gonna submit to Shonen Jump, and I'm gonna become an artist too." And she's like, "Wow, I'm glad that the rich get richer." And then we find out later that she also wants to be an artist, and that's why that upset her because she's coming from nothing, and wants to break out herself. Which I actually liked. I guess I liked that they fleshed this character out with that, and that I liked this element, and I liked seeing Ichiro handling it the way he was understanding, and maybe just because there's just been so many horrible things, it was just a good father and daughter moment as a dad of daughters. Thank you for something.
Yeah,
I think it just felt out of place for me because there were such serious things going on.
Why are we caring about her manga career?
Yeah, I don't understand. An asteroid's coming to the Earth. Hiro is killing everybody. Why is Ichiro not hunting him down? Oh, he's not ready, but he's still freaking out.
Right.
So maybe if the anime didn't have Hiro, she would have been great.
I did like the scene of her following him and seeing them on the train and trying to imagine how do they know each other, and then imagining her father at the table being like, "I like boys."
Right. Yep. And there was another one where her dad was like, "So you need to take good care of my daughter. I grant her to you." Yeah.
Or this is my son from another family.
Yes,
that was pretty great too.
Yep. All of her imaginings were awesome.
But she basically sees him perform his healing miracles and fly, so she kind of gets let in on the secret and doesn't do a whole lot with it though. Just kind of is like, I still got to deal with my stuff. But now is like looking at her dad like, what's going on here? But does not ask about it. And maybe that's a cultural thing.
I don't know.
And then we have the scene of Hiro attacking a police station and wiping out everyone, and then wiping out the cops who show up outside again, basically, and then starting his war against all of Japan. His reasoning is they'll never stop hunting me, so my only alternative is to wipe everything out. And then Ichiro sees it on the news, is like, I should stop that, and then he doesn't. So yeah, I actually agree with that point. That was like they should have had about 2 or 3 confrontations before the end of the anime with the way the characters were reacting to each other.
I do have to admit that once they did have their confrontation, I wondered if it would have been possible for them to have confrontations without having that climactic battle happen. So I
wanted to see Hiro lose and be like, man, I need to get better at this because Hiro obviously is way more capable with his powers. Basically, a young person picking up a smartphone and instinctively figuring out how to use it, and an old person picking up a smartphone and being like, "But where's on?"
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
They did that with the jetpack. Yeah.
Yeah, the automated system was kind of the equalizer that I was worried about.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Then Ando begins his murdering spree. He's killing people through their cell phones and
Hiro.
Yeah, sorry. Hiro starts murdering people. The reason I said Ando is because Ando realizes, this is through the phone, and has Ichiro actually send out a message across phones to drop your phones, and Japanese citizens start dropping their phones everywhere. But Hiro just then switches to televisions and kills 100 people in the city. And declares this is practice, tomorrow's 1,000.
So I'm halfway okay with the smartphone thing, just because if he's got to then visualize like where the shot needs to go, like trying to think of the mechanics of how it works, I'm kind of okay with the smartphone because they've all got cameras, right? And he would be able to utilize the cameras to be able to see where he's going. Because he made it, the anime made it very clear he's visually doing it. He's visually aiming this weapon. But then he gets on the TV, and then it's like, okay, there's no camera up there. How is he seeing this? And then, like, if he then needs a camera, why does he need to display his face on these phones?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this entire thing was not only unnecessary to, like, hey, this is a bad guy, but it didn't make sense.
I had a problem with the cell phone thing because even that, they made it very clear that the shot came from the phone. Like when they would hold the phone up to their head, the shot came out of the phone and went out of the other side of their head, which would mean that he would have to be at that angle or have a weapon that curves through as well.
No, it's coming out of the phone.
Exactly. But I mean, like, at that point, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then later you see him and he's holding up his hand, and his hand has a camera in it.
Right.
And he's just like literally shooting into the camera going bang, bang.
I think I prefer it coming out of the phone than him like shooting people and using the phone for targeting and like changing his angle. Because it doesn't make sense no matter what. But I think I prefer the using the phone. And we do see there is the scene where like Ichiro touches a phone and his fingernail turns into a USB port.
Mm-hmm.
So that their bodies can adapt and like come up with weird stuff.
That was a great scene.
I love
I'm super comfortable with watching a fingernail open. No,
that was awesome.
No, not just that, but I love his reactions to all of it.
Yes.
Like, he's got jetpacks coming out of his bag, but the finger thing freaked him out now. It's so old, man.
Oh, God. So awesome. Yep.
Okay, so after this passes, this really made me frustrated. The Japanese government decides, hey, children, still go to school. And they're like, yeah, kids, you got to go. Just make sure you don't bring your cell phones. And then they still do. But I understand the kids being dumb and making dumb decisions. Why are parents sending their kids to school the day after 100 people just died in the middle of downtown Tokyo?
With a threat of 1,000 the next day?
Right. No.
Mm-hmm.
That was frustrating.
There's billboards, ads, there's all kinds of stuff all over the place, and he has obviously been killing people using those. There's enough eyewitnesses. They can establish that, he couldn't have been in multiple directions sniping at the same time. He had to be doing it from all of those different angles, which means the billboards. So I don't know, maybe it's just because it's so difficult for people to believe they will choose denial over acceptance. So, but yeah, I just hated the whole situation. Didn't make any sense.
And then Hiro starts raining airplanes down on the city.
And we get introduced to the American. with his baby, his screaming baby that he doesn't know how to quiet on the airplane.
As soon as I saw her point the phone at the kid's face, I was like,
no,
this is
no. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
It adds. I mean, for as far as her decision making, that like if you had heard, hey, people die from their phones, you're like, I use my phone every day. That's not possible. That's not a thing, and that it just hasn't really entered in. But yeah, then I was like, please don't. You haven't done anything since episode 2 that was as bad as that. Please do not do the baby. They even threatened it before when a little kid puts his phone to his ear, but that's when Ichiro saves him. And see, like that, I was okay with. Like the threat of it is like, okay, you got me going, and I'm scared, and I'm.
But don't you do it?
But don't actually show it. The next episode is the first one I have liked since Hiro took over the anime. So basically, from the point where his mom has cancer to here, I've just been miserable. The Ichiro episode, basically every Ichiro focused episode I love, and then there's just this huge stretch. And so we come back, and we finally get to go back to Ichiro, and he flies in to save the day, catches a plane, and helps guide it down in a very Superman style move. And then we see that he also managed, even though he says he wasn't able to do it, he manages to remotely control all the other planes and bring them in like right behind, lands them all in the lake. Really cool moment that I really enjoyed. As stupid as the attack was, the hero side, I'm like, yeah, I'm into that. Thank you. And I love watching him crawl out from underneath the plane.
That was pretty great.
Because every time Superman does it, it's like, but how'd
you get out from
there? So he literally crashes into the ground with the plane on top of him and has to dig himself out. I like that. But then the final battle between him and Hero starts. Hero shows up and they starts attacking him. Hero starts ranting about, oh my gosh, I'm the villain of this story.
This pissed me off.
You figure that out now?
Yeah,
and you dare to cry? Like you're expecting the audience to have some kind of level of empathy toward this reveal?
Again, devil's advocate, because I literally just complained about it, so you know I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he assumed anyone going through this would react the same way he did. To realize that turning him into a machine wasn't what made him a killer, it was literally his choices, and that's what just hit him. Because here a man who went through the same experience.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that hit him.
It better be that, because there's nothing else that makes sense.
Yeah. What I got was that the world sees me as the villain, not I am the villain. I've been doing bad things, and because when that hits you, you could at least have the change of heart when you realize I'm the villain. But if you get the hit of the world sees me as a villain and still victimize yourself, then you can carry on with your ways. And so because he continued to victimize himself and fight back in the way he did, I kind of thought that he was just
I took it the other way, and then that he was lashing out in rage from that point on. Because he stops attacking Japan. He wants to kill this other robot because it bugs him so much that another human being could go through what he went through and then make better choices.
I thought it bugged him because Ichiro was the only one that could stand up to him. I mean, he's neutralized every threat that he considered could stand up to him.
Actually, I couldn't figure out why he attacked him.
Why he attacked Ichiro?
Yeah, this scene just did not make sense. Like, he comes to this realization now that I'm the bad guy, and starts crying, and Ichiro's just like, hey, my daughter's in trouble, I'm gonna go save her. And then he just starts attacking him, and I'm like, what? Why?
You understand that you're the bad guy, yeah.
What is happening in this scene?
Yeah. This was the standard Spider-Man. You gonna save Mary Jane, or are you gonna save?
Oh, yeah, this very tropey, super stuff.
Absolutely, and I loved his decision that I can fight you later. My daughter's in trouble now.
Yeah,
I liked that. I didn't like. I don't like you because I'm angsty, so I'm gonna attack you. Like that. I didn't like it.
I agree, but basically, okay. From the villain's point of view in this episode. Ichiro's point of view. Yeah. I loved everything about it. I loved him flying. I I'm a father of daughters. When he's like, oh my God, my daughter is literally dying and this guy won't let me get to her. Like, I'm like, yeah, oh God,
Oh yeah,
come on, we
I'm
gotta
super
go.
invested in that.
So I'm super into this battle they have. It also looked cool. The lasers coming out their backs and blasting each other, switching from the finger guns to the actual lasers. And
I was also a bit worried that once he got to his daughter, if Hero was still trailing him or following him, he'd just kill her. And I was like, be careful, man. Don't just take him to her.
The battle reaches the point where they knock each other out and their automatic defense systems kick in and Ichiro's wins.
Not clear on how that works.
Yeah, first a satellite just starts coming in out of nowhere, which I'm assuming that Hero was bringing in as a weapon. And so Ichiro blows that up to stop it. And then he grabs Hero, rips the back of his head off, rips his arms off, and then is just out. I was like, oh, you're going for the core. Smart.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
For it. And then he exposes it and is like, yeah, but now his arms. And I was like, why?
Okay, fine. You got the arms. Now go for the. Why are you leaving him alone?
It's like he passed out, like he was done, and then he he probably ran out of battery because he falls into the water, drinks.
Oh, they both did.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, Hero fell on pavement, but he fell in water. Yeah.
And then, but
maybe that's
he could drink the water.
But at the end of this episode, two ladies come up to Hero and are like, "We got juice,
orange juice."
But that must be it. They must have both ran out of.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But still, go for the core when you got it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, he was still passed out at that point, right?
Oh yeah, it was automated systems.
But do you think it's because Ichiro won't kill and he's not even willing to kill this guy? He's said before, I may have to kill him. But do you think even subconsciously he cannot bring himself to kill?
He did say that Ichiro's actions were unforgivable, but he also said that to the Yakuza guy and he didn't kill him. Mm-hmm. So it's possible.
Justice may be losing your arms in the back of your head. and
then in a little bit of over dramatic flair, he does reach Mary. She's dead. Can't kill her. CPRs her again. Gives up.
Can I just rant about something real quick?
You have okay. I'm pushing us fast. We got to
20 seconds. 20 seconds. Okay, she is lying on the ground, dead. What seems to be from inhalation, smoke inhalation. Why is he giving her CPR there? Why didn't he take her to the ground and then give her CPR?
That's a good point.
That's all I want to get out of that.
I am not a medic or a doctor. I cannot tell you this is the right choice or not.
Maybe you got to ease her back by giving her a little bit of smoke with the air at first. I don't know.
I honestly thought they were going to let her go. And I like that. I like that they teased it so much. It's just what logically, like, wait, why did you breathe now? He stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I was on the edge of like, I have no idea if this character lives or dies. I have no idea.
Yes,
and I like that, and that is good storytelling. When if you can get the audience not to believe that there's plot armor or not, and you're wondering, and that's hard to do.
My mind went back to the boyfriend, soon to be husband of the girl that the Yakuza guy stole. Because I was thinking, he didn't let him die either. I wonder if
that scene is a setup for this, and showing that like even when healing can't work, CPR still can. I mean, that scene is 100% for this scene. It is the establishing shot for this. But he does manage to save her, and then he spends the rest of the night healing and saving people.
Which was badass.
So I got a quick question. Now I'm not super clear on this. I know that CPR works the rhythm for the breathing in the heart and everything, but what is the machine that you use? Yes, defibrillators.
That's just heart.
That's just heart. And so
your heart runs on an electrical current, and you're basically pumping a huge electrical current into your heart.
I know, but I mean, like, what happens if, like, when the person's heart stops, they stop breathing, right? And so when they hit them with the defibrillator, they start breathing again when their heart starts beating. Does that just not work if a person's asphyxiated? I'm not clear on that.
It's different tools for different scenarios.
Yeah, and you got to remember, so there are ways to keep a person breathing. If you have that kind of equipment, you can shove a tube in their mouth and force oxygen into the lungs and breathe for them. You can't really make a heart unless you literally grabbing the heart and pumping it for them. You need the heart to work on its own. You can force air in, you can't force the blood circulatory system to work. So that's step one, is get the heart going and then get the lungs going again.
Right. Which is partially what CPR is for, is a manual defibrillator.
Right. Yes, but he's got a real defibrillator built into his hands, and so that's why I was wondering, couldn't he have just been like, "Hey, this person's
I didn't
heart
see that as defibrillation. I saw it as healing.
No, I agree, but he's a robot, which means he has an electrical current. He's able to make USB ports in his fingernails. I'm sure he could make.
But he doesn't think of that stuff. That's not his thought process. He doesn't understand.
He didn't really think about.
He barely has mastery over the things he can do.
Subconscious.
We got to finish.
I don't know.
Yeah. Some of us have bedtimes.
It's true.
And it's not me.
The final episode, you guys obviously don't like. I think you've made that clear. It's basically the asteroids coming in. And there's things I don't like about this episode, but the asteroids coming in, America, the president comes on the television and says,
America, yeah,
we couldn't do anything about it. Good luck. You're on your own. You got 3 days left.
I can see why some people would think that was an accurate representation, but I
never said it was accurate. I just thought it was hilarious.
It was funny, but I was like, oh, come on.
Does anyone remember Read or Die, the movie?
Oh, it sounds so familiar.
I believe in that one they made George W. Bush pee himself twice.
Oh, jeez.
So it's not the first time Japanese culture has funded our president for sure. And just so you know, the manga treats it worse.
Oh, really?
It's much worse. Basically, he's like, rape and murder are illegal. F you guys, I'm out.
It's like Purge.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the asteroid thing, real quick, emotional scenes of he decides to try to stop it, goes up there, Hero's up there. He can't stop it. Hero's up there. He's like, hey, I figured out if I self-destruct, I can stop it. Hero self-destructs, doesn't stop it. Ichiro realizes that he can't, one more self-destruct will stop it, and he self-destructs to stop it.
So that was a bad simulation by Hero.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was like, oh, yeah, how much faith are you putting in simulations of your robot mind? Sure. And even the whole thing is literally like, why give Hero this moment at all? Why didn't you just kill him in the last episode? I don't agree with that at all. But the creator, I don't know what your purpose or your intent was. Do you think we care about this character after what we've seen him do? Do you think we have any connection that we want him to have a heroic moment?
I did think there was a really interesting moment when he showed up at Ando's house, didn't have any arms.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you going to do, Ando? And Ando's like, hey, distraction. Do you want to read some Jump? Want to read some manga? And the guy's turning the pages with his feet. And I'm like, wow. And he's laughing. He's like, oh, this guy's so funny. I'm like, wow, there is something wrong with you. There is something wrong with you.
It's a little late to figure that out, but
I know, but like it's just every episode just builds on how clear it is that something is wrong with his head.
So the things I did like about this, I did like Ando's reaction to finding out that he's one of the reasons Hero went there to save the world.
Yeah.
And then finally realizing that
I don't understand why he screamed and cried about it. I could see him being like, I
just
need to
lost
think
a
about
childhood
this.
friend. It's probably the first time he's realized he lost a child.
That just murdered hundreds of people and like
mourning the friend from before then. I guess not mourning the friend that turned into a robot and killed people, but mourning the friend you grew up with before he turned into a psycho monster.
I don't know.
I
can't follow that.
It's flimsy. I liked that Ichiro gave Hero the credit because it just is his type of character. Like, hey, don't worry, he did save us. Tell everyone.
Yeah.
Hero does not deserve that at all.
Mm-mm.
So writer, screw you, Ichiro, love you, bae. and the one other thing that I liked about and I'll let you guys finish up for us. This felt like a Superman story to me. The asteroid is stupid, but Superman always being willing to do whatever it takes to be the hero. That's Superman 101 through and through. And this, Ichiro really brought that out. He had the conversation with his son about, I was always weak. but I always was a good person in my heart, and I never realized that was enough. And now that I have these powers, I realized that I was fine as I was, and inspiring his son. And that's what Superman is. Superman is an inspiration for people to be better and do the best that they can do, even if they aren't gods. It isn't about that Superman's a god. It's about that he does everything he can. And here's Ichiro doing the same thing. That's what I liked. Okay. You guys.
This final episode felt cheap. It. Well,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It bugged me a lot. It bugged me that both of them died. It bugged me that Hiro lasted this long. And it bugged me that he had any sort of redemption story, even if it was with his own sacrifice. It just kind of was the final nail in the coffin for me that I did not like this anime.
Okay.
So if we were to follow your previous idea to this point, it sounds like if the writer was saying that the youth of the generation are a danger and would, make really bad decisions, ultimately they would wind up dealing with the consequences of their decisions and having a redemption arc.
Or maybe he's saying maybe they don't care about the world like they should, but there is still stuff that they hold dear and that there is still good in them.
Yeah, exactly. Like they would find a way to use what they see as important to adjust their current moral compass. If that's at all what he was doing, I have no idea. But yeah, this episode, just everything about the asteroid to me felt super contrived. Like there was absolutely no reason for it to just show up a few episodes ago. Absolutely none, except to tie up loose ends at the end of this.
It's the same reason the aliens showed up in the beginning. The aliens are here to turn this on, and the asteroid here is to turn this off.
Right. Yeah. And for it to be so big that it required both of them, and for him to have like dumped so much of his light missiles, whatever they are, into it beforehand as well, like it all fell together so perfectly to clean up every little bit of the super mess. But I mean, here's the question though. Hiro's hands are still down there, and so is the back of his head. So now we're probably going to have some clandestine government organization working with super technology pretty soon. So there's always that. There's room for a sequel where Hiro's hands go around killing people. Bang.
Probably not coming back for a sequel.
Bang, bang.
Let's go on to final reviews. Thanks for pitching Terminator 3 for this series.
Troy, it was your anime. Why don't you go first?
I'm going to give it 3 Bakas on the condition that there is a character that is now one of my favorite anime characters of all time. He's completely different. He breaks molds. And this anime was different. It was something new, and that's what I watch anime for. So it served its purpose. Like I said, I would not recommend it to others, and I wouldn't come back for a sequel. But I don't hate it, even though there's parts of it I hate. Right.
If I could give it a 1.5, I would. I'd give it a half for the animation for Ichiro, and also just a lot of his arcs were really great. And honestly, this anime presented some really, really cool sci-fi ideals and setups that did not pay off. So to be consistent with my regret for having to watch this, I'm gonna give it a 1.
Hey, that's a rare thing. I think that it had a lot of potential. When I saw Ichiro dealing with his powers in the early episodes, and I got to see how his arc was going, I really thought they were going to do something cool with it. But that introduction of Hiro and how they use the villain, I mean, a villain is so much of the backbone of an anime, and this villain he really destroyed the anime. I would also like to give it 1.5, but I enjoyed Ichiro so much that I actually wind up giving it 2.
Okay. Yeah. And with that concluded, guess what we're going on to? We're finally going to finish Fate Apocrypha Part 2.
Yeah!
It's on Netflix. It's 13 episodes. That's what we're moving on to. We're going to finish that story.
Hey, let's hope it finishes stronger than it started.
Yes.
You know, with as many bad animes as you've been forced to watch, Jason, according to you, you better pick something just monumental.
Oh, it better be amazing.
Which is next. So that would be our next episode, is the finishing of Fate Apocrypha. And if you would like to comment on the anime that we just watched, share your thoughts, you can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. And I would suggest following that, because after episode 2, I sent out a tweet that like, hey guys, just extra warning. This gets intense. And so that's our best way to communicate with you for sure. You can also send us an email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you listened or watched this episode. YouTube is working great. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, also in regards to this episode, because like we've had a lot of commentary and discussion on what the writer might have been thinking. If somebody out there knows, maybe the writer said something, maybe there's been mangas about this for a while.
I actually did do some searching to see if anyone had like theses out there on this stuff. I just couldn't really find anything.
Well, if anybody's got any ideas that, controversial to ours or backup, we'd love to hear them.
Absolutely. And I think that will do it. Is there any business I've left unattended to? Okay. Well, if you're on this long, thank you guys so much. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Sayonara.